Hi everyone, I'm Josh. Welcome back to my channel. This time for my September wrap-up. All the books that I read in September. So the first two books I'm going to mention, but I'm not going to really talk much about. That is African Europeans, which I gave 3.5 stars, or I think it was 3.5 to 4 stars. And then The Night Tiger I gave 3.5 to 4 stars as well. Both of these I talk about in my wrap-up for August because they were both books I came very close to finishing in August. Let's just say that both I gained something from them, but I struggled with them. This is the quickest wrap up there. For more information, check out my August wrap up. The other books that I read, 7 other books, I think I'm going to start with It by Stephen King, which I didn't actually read this month. It is one of the few books like 11/22/63, which I actually finished in October, that I like to return to when I'm like in a slog, or if I'm just being lazy, if I'm doing something that's kind of requires some more of my mind than a tedious task, but I want to read something, I can throw on It or something like that. Something I've listened to several times, like multiple times, that I've honestly lost count, but I can enjoy and stay invested in. This is something that I have marked as being read from 2019 to 2021. I don't know if that's true. I honestly don't remember when I started. I think it was 2019, because I usually tend to start them over not long after I finish them. But I finished it this month, but I didn't really read it this month. When I first checked the total page count for this month, it was like 3,500, and I was like, finally, that was the goal I've been trying to get to all year. And I realized, wait, that's because 1,000 of those pages were from It, which I did not actually read this month. So in any case, I finished it, which, I don't know, I like it. It's still 5 stars. It is still, I recognize that it has some inherent problems relating to how it treats race and talks about gay people, and problems that I still have with Stephen King. But at the core, it's still an immensely effective horror book. Next is We Have Always Lived in the Castle, which if you've seen or will see, actually I won't say, I don't know when this is going up, before or after my end of the year book tag, but I'm going to talk about it in that, so I won't spoil what I say about it. But I will go ahead and say I did really like it. This was one of Shirley Jackson's most famous books, one of the few that I had not yet read, and I'm glad that I did get to it. The big reason I read this one over the others is because it's the only one that was on audio at the time. By the time this goes up, her whole entire collection should be on audio. It comes out the 19th, her older books being adapted audio, which I would like to get to one in October. It wasn't on my TBR. And I was excited. I'm glad I read it, because this book, it wasn't quite like Haunting of Hill House in the sense that it didn't feel as dark, but it used a lot of the similar themes, like as far as the psychological side goes, and it also relied heavily, I think, on other themes that Jackson uses in her memoirs and other short stories. Things have to do with small towns, family, the idea of what a woman is expected of, what was expected of her rather, and I really saw it reflected in, I think, a very positive way. I think where her memoirs fail, this really takes those ideas and makes it a more substantial story, and I really liked it. It was really dark, really enjoyable read. My rating, can you guess it? It was 4.5 to 5 stars. So next up, sorry, I have my laptop here. Oh, also, damn it, I have books here to show you. Oh, I won't lie, I don't like holding up these books because you can't really see it. They are such a hassle to share my Library of America editions. But anyways, next up, we have ourselves an ARC. Something that wasn't on my TBR, which this month I was in general embraced reading books that aren't on my TBR more, to just allow myself to not lose the interest in reading by trying to force myself to read something that's sort of not in the mood for at the moment. And that's it. We Are Satellites, and this is by Sarah Pinsker, and I would give this book between 3.5 and 4 stars, maybe closer to 4 stars. This is a futuristic dystopian book about a world where they can install something into your head, basically a device that helps you have split focus, so you can focus on multiple things to a high degree of efficiency and accuracy. It was an interesting near future sci-fi book that explored how texts like these will discriminate, both socially and as far as what people are capable of, and also just on the surface of what people expect you to be capable of, based solely on their perception of a device, of a technology, not even about how the individual actually acts. And I get very strong, just big tech vibes. Personally, I can't help but think Facebook and how they're growing, things like their VR sect, things like that. I guess there's also Google and Apple. But I don't know, Facebook to me seems to be the ones who's really trying to become a part of our lives, like with their Oculus getting bigger and bigger. At the core, this book disappointed me, not because it was a bad book, but because we are satellites. I'm a scientist who studies planets. I saw this cover of looking at the stars, or a star, and I heard the word satellite, and I thought, okay, space travel, space, something to do with space. Granted, I didn't read the synopsis first, or if I did, I just skimmed it. And so it wasn't what I wanted it to be. Not a bad book, but it's hard not to escape that need for that one thing you were expecting. Like, you would get your hopes up for it, and it's not there. And it doesn't make the book bad, it just not exactly what I was needing in the moment. Still, solid book. Next up, Jamaica Inn. Now this one, again, not a bad book, but it's certainly not a great book. This book is like, I don't advise reading it because it feels like a waste of time. I'm getting way too comfortable here. Anyways, this is a thriller about a young girl who, I want to say her mom dies, so she moves in with her aunt, and it turns out her aunt is married to this really awful man who is the owner of an inn, kind of like a brothel, not quite a brothel, but like they do something illegal there, let's put it that way. She's trying to save her aunt, who is trapped within this very harmful relationship, and is trying to let our main character try to solve this problem. The problem was I wasn't invested in anything, in our characters, any of our characters, in the story. It just felt so immensely bland. It's not a bad book, it's just, why waste your time with something that I don't think has much to give? It's just so bland. I gave it 3 stars for that reason. I say it in such an extreme manner that I feel like I should be giving it lower, but 3 stars for me is like a fine book that's extremely bland. Next, we have our last final 3 books. The Final Girls. And I had a whole vlog on this, so I don't want to go too deeply into it, but I read Grady Hendrix's The Final Girl Support Group, which I think I gave 4 to 4.5 stars. It was a really good thriller / horror book that I think did a really good job of exploring the Final Girl trope. It really embodied this feeling of, a horror film. I really liked our main character, who was one of many Final Girls, women who had movies adapted about them, like using the Final Girl trope, but they had real life experiences that they had to survive. The main character, she was much like Jamie Lee Curtis's main character in the new Halloween movie, where she's just so paranoid that something's going to happen again. And it was a fast-paced, fun book, something I really, really enjoyed. Switch over to Final Girls by Riley Sager, and Jesus Christ, this was mediocre. Honestly, I hate it more than his newest book, Survive the Night. And objectively, this is probably not quite as bad a written book. It's just, at least that other book I had some mild enjoyment. I enjoyed hating it. This one was just like Jamaica Inn. It's bland, and it reuses the ideas that he uses in Survive the Night, which means Survive the Night was even worse than I thought because he rehashes his own ideas. Characters who conveniently have amnesia, characters who then try to attack that character to figure out what actually happened, meaning you have to remember you're lying or something. Like, he's reusing it, and they're not even good tactics to use in his writing. And I will say it again. How is he so popular? How is someone so mediocre continuing to get so much attention? I mean, I know why. It's because he takes popular things like this trope and he goes with it. I talk about it in the vlog. I'm done with him. I have one more book by him I want to read, but other than that, I'm done with him. Then The Last Final Girl, which is a reread for me by Stephen Graham Jones. And this one, I feel like I liked it. Second place in the in that vlog I did, but first place for how well it embodies the horror trope of the Final Girls. And this is a story that is told like it is a horror film, like you are reading a script almost, where you're saying you're in the scene, such and such to something, and you cut to this scene, you come in, you fade in, or you zoom in from a certain perspective. Like it's so much like a film that it's hard not to love it for that. The problem is the book itself, the story is hard to follow, at least for me, with that kind of storytelling. So it's like a double-edged sword. It's something that I think really makes the book reach a new level, but not work as well for me personally. That said, it's about a story where we come in at the end of a horror movie where the final girl is surviving, and then we had this talk about a lot of meta stuff about we're about to start a sequel, or we're in the middle of the in-betweens of a sequel, yada yada yada. And then things unfold. It's a very much slasher film. Think of it like not really Halloween. It's more like Jason, Friday the 14th feel here. But overall, like, my feelings were generally the same as the first time, maybe slightly more positive. 3.5 to 4 stars are my feelings here. And those are the books that I read in September, all of them. And I hope you enjoyed this. I actually did have one more that I almost finished, and that is When Things We See in the Dark or something, which is an anthology for Shirley Jackson, and I have finished it in October, so it's not really a review. Let's just say highly recommend. Highly recommend. For now, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you thought of any of these books. And as always, hope you stay safe, and I will see you next time.